Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Lisa, and in this video we're going to talk through how I've completed this Chihuahua pet portrait piece with colour pencils. If you like this video, remember to like and subscribe, and if you feel like you'd like to give this guy a go, you can add me on Patreon and check out the full real-time tutorial over there. If you'd like to see all of the tutorials I have available, you can check them out on my website. I'll put a link in the description below. There's a whole heap of different tutorials that you can check out. You get given the line art, full real-time tutorial, colour list, and everything you need to complete all of these different pieces. So for this piece I use Strathmore Bristol colour pencil paper, and it was killing me the whole way through. Never fear though, I talk through different techniques and ways that we can go to blend the paper down and get a really nice, smooth, shiny looking Chihuahua. Let's get started. So starting with the right hand eye, there are a lot of reflections in this one. So I started by going in with the black and putting the outline in. Make sure that you go in really softly with your outline at the start until you're happy with the shape, and then you can go in with a darker pressure. So there are lots of colours and shapes in these eyes. So the base layer I used is the warm grey 2, the burnt ochre, light ultramarine and coral, where you can sort of see those different tones. And then just started getting darker with the walnut brown, warm grey 5 and the black. So when it comes to sort of really reflective eyes like this, it's just easy to break down the shapes that you can see and just think about them as little shapes in the eye. So if you try and just draw sort of the whole thing as a whole, it can get really confusing and sort of lose where you are in the piece. But if you just break it down, you can really see where all of the shapes are and just put them in one at a time. It's really important just to take your time, because this is going to be the main focus of the animal. As soon as people look at it, they're going to look at those big glassy eyes, so you really want it to be quite accurate. So as I was putting the fur down around the eyes, it was already starting to be apparent that this paper was going to be very tricky to blend. So what I did in between the eyes is just go in with a couple of base layers and then use my Zested colour pencil blender and blend it down with a brush. So if you haven't used a colour pencil blender before, it is just like a liquid that you apply with a paintbrush. It really just helps to soften and blend down the pigments on the paper so you can't see the white of the paper coming through. It's also really helpful when you want to put darker layers over your light layers, and then if you want to scrape up those darker layers so you can see the lighter layers underneath. So when you're sort of doing fur or whiskers or anything like that, it's a really good technique to use to be able to bring back whiter sections where you need them. Or if you've gone into heavy-handed, you can always just scrape some of it up. So with this one, what I did was go through, put down a base layer and then blend it down, and then move on to another smaller section, put down a base layer and then blend it down, and then just move around the portrait that way. So for this really big head section, I went through and put down a base layer of the warm grey 2, also using some of the cold grey 2, went through, added some of the light ultramarine and the burnt ochre where you can see those orange and blue tones, and then went through with the colour pencil blender, blended it all down, so then you have this sort of weird looking grey, blue, purple, orange head happening. For this sort of whisker section, I did go through and use an embossing tool. So if you don't know what an embossing tool is, it's sort of like a metal tool that you use to indent the paper. This helps to preserve the white. It's really great for whiskers and really, really white hairs that you want to make sure they stay nice and crisp. So now that I've blended down the head, and then we're going to go back through with the darker colours. This one is the warm grey 5. Also use the walnut brown and the black here. And then do resaturate with the light ultramarine, burnt ochre and some red violet and also coral. But as I'm putting this black back over and getting darker, I'm finding that it's not blending the way that I wanted it to. So I'd go through, put in some of the colours like the black, warm grey 5, and then I'm using the warm grey 2 and the cold grey 2 to also blend it down, because I can see that there are little white bits of paper coming through. So if you look sort of at the top of the head, in between the eyes, you can sort of see little white bits of paper that aren't meant to be there. So this is where having different tools in your belt and also skills up your sleeve will help you to adapt to problems that you come across when you're doing pieces like this. And that's a great thing about completing these Patreon tutorials. If there are any issues, we go over these in real time, and you'll learn different techniques and skills to be able to fix any of these issues. So now I'm going through adding some more of that Zest-It pencil blend to try and blend some of these areas down. Also remember to try and take a break from these areas. So if you're spending too long and getting too frustrated going over certain areas that you feel like aren't working out, maybe have a break from it, move on to another section or step away for a day or two and just see how you feel about it and come back to it with some fresh perspective. Sometimes you might be getting frustrated and feel like it's not working out, but then with fresh eyes, you sort of can see the ways that you can fix it or feel like you were being a little bit too hard on yourself in the first place. So for these really dark sections, I go through and layer in the black, warm grey 5, walnut brown, also add in the orange and blue tones, which I've added throughout the whole thing. So that's a light ultramarine, the burnt ochre. In the ear, I use a lot of the coral and also the red violet mixed together, and that gets that reddy browny pink color that you can see in the ear. So on the body here, as you can see the issue that I'm having, so you can still see the paper through it, even though I've used the blender, even though I've used the black pencil. So what we're going to do is just go over with more layers. We're using the warm grey 5 with a harder pressure to blend everything down. And then I'm going to go back over with the Zest-It pencil blend and my brush and just start to blend over those edges. Then for the last final touch, all I've done is gone and put down a really basic ground for this one. I didn't want to take away from the actual piece, but I really hope that you like this video. Remember to like and subscribe. Check me out on Patreon and at my website. I'll see you in the next video. Keep drawing. Thanks, guys.